Happy day, everyone. I'm gonna spill the beans and say September for us. So I mean we're rocking in September. It's fall is almost upon us, and so we get all three of us today. All three the geniuses. So my name is Josh Tyler Tomlinson, and Steve Axtell. Steve who has a pond and a mountain and a jungle gym in his backyard, and so we got some cool things. We're gonna dive into the topic today is high school season and the resources that we have for you to continue to be involved in high school season. So we're gonna get started. This is Cap Chat.
You're listening to Cap Chat, the #1 soccer recruitment podcast in the United States. This is Cap Chat.
So across the country, the system is different for just about every state of when players will play high school season versus when they go into club season. Some are alternate. I'm in Missouri, so Missouri boys play high school soccer in the fall, then they play club in the spring, and the girls are opposite. Girls play club in the fall, and then they play high school in the spring. Steve, what's it like for you in New York?
Yeah, New York is boys and girls play high school in the fall, and then their club seasons start around November and go through June or July.
Okay. Tyler, any different in Illinois?
No, Illinois is similar to Missouri, but I'm recruiting states like Texas, which is in or California, these other west areas that high school's in sometimes in the winter.
That makes sense.
So it opens up spring and fall in different situations and places. So it depends on, once again, like you said, where you live.
Okay. So the conversation we want to have is while you're in high school season, the recruitment process should not stop. If you're part of Rush, we have a ton of resources. We have a tendency to say, "Oh, it's high school season, and I'm just going to do my high school thing." And then club coaches sometimes you say, "Oh, my kids are in high school. I can't really. They're on their own." So we have these resources of how do we continue to help you, because this process needs to continue. You cannot take 3 to 4 months off without doing anything in the recruitment process. So, Steve, we're gonna throw it over to you and see, guys. We got some tips and trades and fun stuff. So, what do you think? Let's start helping people with what they should be doing during the high school season here.
Yeah, well, I think number one, the college seasons don't change. So college coaches are in season in the fall. And so I think for us, being in the Northeast, I see a lot of kids kind of almost check out of the recruiting process a little bit, especially when they're younger, like sophomores and juniors check out a little bit during their high school season. And just because you're in your high school season and college coaches are on the road less to come watch you play, doesn't mean that we're not recruiting behind the scenes from our desk, right? Again, creating lists, creating depth charts, having conversations, having visits in the fall. I think the fall is a huge time to visit campuses because you get to see a game day, you get to see a practice, you get to see the campus when it's, kind of booming and live. And so I think kids are missing out if you're not really trying to maximize the fall, even though it might look and feel a little bit different because college coaches are on the road less. So I would say if you're a high school player in the fall, I would say that is definitely not a time to check out. It might look different because coaches aren't going to come see you play, but that's your chance to go watch them play, watch them coach, get on their campus, and make those college visits, because I think you're going to see campus exactly how you want to see it, right? On a game day or at a practice, and you get to interact with the team a little bit. I think that's the time when kids should be visiting the most.
How often, I want to kind of ask you a question here, is during your fall season, and do you welcome players to come to game day? And I know you can't spend as much time with them because it's game day, but do you welcome them to come watch you play, and then say hi to them afterwards? Is that a pretty good recruitment process?
Definitely. I do it a lot with seniors that are kind of making their last visits and making their decisions. And that's kind of the timeline that we're on a lot. But I wish more juniors would come. And that's kind of like, I think maybe the tip is for younger players to also try and maximize those visits. But I think you'll find most coaches are welcoming, even if you're not, in the locker room and like right next to them all the time. Just being on campus and being around it and then meeting with the coach, I think you're going to find that most coaches are going to take the time to do that. Brian?
Yeah, actually, talked to a couple men's coaches about this topic the last week or so. And they just kind of asked me, because I'm old now, like, what do you, do you go to high school games? Like, do you recruit high school kids? And my answer was, I'm not just going to go, definitely in season, never would I just go to like a random game typically and just watch and hope that I'm going to recruit a player from these games. However, if someone we're interested in happens to email us and say, like, I personally am playing in this game and we want that kid, there's a good chance that, me or the assistant coach might go support that player, evaluate, show our interest. Then maybe you can look at some other players around that kid, with those connections now in place. But the randomness isn't going to be there. But I do think there are some coaches that have staffs, and during their season, if you invite them and you're confident in your play and who you are as a player, you can invite them to come watch you play high school. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it may mean a lot for you as a player if a coach does go the little extra mile there and show their interest and not only support you in club, but support who you are as a soccer player within your high school as well. So that was my answer to those college coaches that were asking that question. No, that was on the men's side, because on the women's side where we are, we don't have to fight the high school same season as us battle. So I think that's something that you can take pride in your game and inviting them, and that's okay to do.
Yeah, I agree. I like watching the kids in their high school environment, especially if it's a player that we already know that we like. It might be hard to get out and do like a first evaluation on a player in their high school season. Like Tyler said, I don't know if that's like worth it in terms of us like spending the time and the budget for that, but we'll definitely go watch a player that we already like. And I like watching it because I think it mimics the college game a little bit more. I've said this all along. I think if you could marry the two, high school and club, you get the level of club and you get like the passion and pride for their town, and the school comes out and watches, you get that community aspect of the high school. And that's what college is going to look and feel like. So I like kids that stand out on their high school team, that have leadership skills in their high school team, that like really buy into that pride. Because the reverse, I've seen some kids that are really good players that don't put themselves out there in their high school team because they think they're above it or they're better. And they just are kind of going through the motions. And I've stopped recruiting them. I don't love that mindset that just because the players around you aren't as good or, whatever it is, you don't think your team's going to win much that year, that you're almost kind of half trying. So I like watching the high school. I think it gives us a lot of different ideas about players because we get to see them in a different environment.
And I think some states, and I don't have a list of some states, some states allow you to attend an event or two during high school season. So it's probably worth checking with your athletic director, your coach. Wisconsin, for example, can attend two games during their two club games during their high school season. They play
playing two, yeah,
correct. Yep, we had a regional showcase team, and she could attend two games. So she attended a Saturday, Sunday. She couldn't play in the Friday game, but you have to get permission from your athletic director. So something to think about it as well as you're trying to get out there. So what other tips do we have for players that are in high school season to continue to get recruited?
I would say continue to work on yourself too. Like the recruiting process is a lot of external, it's searching. But I think the other big part of the recruiting process is making sure you are the product that is going to get recruited and going to hold up that end of the bargain. So working on your leadership, working on your work ethic, right? Like all of the parts of the game that you can work on. Look, maybe it's not the highest level you've ever played, but that doesn't mean that you can't get better at parts of the game, can't get better at the psychosocial parts of the game, the leadership parts of the game. I mean, you can always be working. So I think kids that don't really try and maximize their time, whether it's in high school or with club, I think are going about it the wrong way. So I think it's a different environment for you to, I see most kids will have more of a leadership role on their high school team. I'll just put it that way. And I think when I see kids not really take advantage of that, that to me, like, it doesn't sit well as a college coach, because I like kids that maximize their time. So I'd say another tip would just be working on all of that type of mental aspects of your game, even though it might be a little bit different level for you. I think that's huge.
Yeah, and when I've talked to kids too, one thing I've noticed is when I ask about film, highlight films, well, they're like, well, I do have access. My high school team, like they film all the games. I'm like, great, that counts as film. Like, just be aware of the competition level of the game you're choosing to, pick your highlights from. But if we're talking more of our players are getting their film out of high school than club just because of availability, it's already in the stadium, whatever, it's easier. One, have those conversations with your high school coach. Can players have access to the film, please? Can we have access to those so I can make a highlight film? They'll help you, right? So don't be afraid to ask that question. And they understand that is a source of you creating your highlight reel is high school games. But yeah, as I said, just be aware of the competition level. The teams that are good that you're playing against and that will show well on film, and just be aware of that. But yes, the answer is yes, use that film. These are still times, like Steve said, you're developing yourself as a player and you're filming yourself as a player. So those opportunities to build that highlight reel.
And I think, Steve kind of touched on the mental aspect of the game and being a leader. And I think it's also focus on your skills. And this is not a blanket statement, so please don't say that we are talking bad about high school. But we have heard there are some high school teams that don't have the same skill level as their club. If that happens to be one of you, this is not a blanket statement, everyone, so calm down, Karen. It is, if you don't feel your high school team's at the same skill level as your club, then focus on your individual development. Really take the things seriously when you're working on them. Don't just go through the motions, because there's going to be things that you do, because you have two options. Let's say you don't like your high school coach, whatever. You can't sit out for 3 months. You're still playing 5 to 6 days a week. So you're still getting more touches than you do in club. So make the most of that time and really focus. You guys doing technical work, make it the best dang technical work you've ever done. Like, it's back to the mental game, but you should be able to outwork everyone on the team. And it may seem simple to you because sometimes the senior's paired with a freshman. That freshman is kind of trying to learn. Outwork everyone. Outwork and get as many touches as you can, because the touches you control. Like, how many touches can you get? Coach says, hey, everyone do 100 juggles before training. Okay, get 300 juggles. So take the most of it and just get yourself better. So when you come back into club season, you've gotten your 1,000 touches a day just by giving it 30% more.
And that might mean you have to do things on your own too.
Yeah.
Like maximize your days off. And I see a lot of kids that, for instance, if their high school is not at a really high level, maybe it's a really small high school, small district, whatever that might be, and it's not at a good level, those kids enter the club season after that pretty unfit also, right? Like, they're not taking care of themselves physically either. So I think, really making sure that you have top level habits, regardless of the environment that you're in, I think goes a long way too.
That's also, valid. So what do we got for the players? So obviously there's just, in general, there's 2 high school seasons. So you're playing in the fall, you're playing in the spring. All colleges play in the fall. We know this. It's hard to continue the recruitment process with communication with coaches in the fall. Steve, you mentioned kind of prepare and do some homework. What are the things can they do? So if you play high school in the fall, what are some things, some kind of homework and prep and behind the scenes things they can continue to do to get ready for recruitment, and maybe when the coaches kind of slow down and catch their breath and able to start responding more?
I think a couple of them probably go right along the lines of the resources that we have as a CAP program. I would say learning about the recruiting process is number one. So if you're a young player not waiting till after your high school season to say, oh yeah, I should probably get started on some of those calls and I should get started on some of that stuff. I think you're just wasting your time and kicking that can down the street a bit. So I'd say like maximize your time, like do it right now. Get on the CAP University, take those courses, like gain as much knowledge as you can. So that way, when you are back and you're going to showcases, let's say, for example, you have a really good idea of what you're doing. So I'd say that for young players. And then even older players, I would say like reaching out to us, getting individual help. Like I know there's some kids that are seniors right now that I don't know. It's one of the two, right? Like they drift away from the CAP program a little bit and from me. And I don't know if it's because they assume because they're not playing club that we're not available as much, or they just forget about it in their own head until their club season starts. And they're like, oh yeah, we have the CAP program. Like I should have been doing a little bit more. So I would say, just understanding that we're here for you no matter what season you're in as CAP directors and the resources that we have for CAP, I think that would be huge.
Are there anything else on that one? That was pretty easy there.
No, that was good. I mean, obviously, yeah, use the resources that you have available to you. One thing too, when it comes to high school that, we don't want to forget, especially for like the freshmen, you're getting in maybe, every freshman is going to have a different experience, right? Your high school's small, so you're playing every varsity game. Your high school's really big, so it has like a junior varsity or a freshman team or a B and C team, right? Regardless of any of those things, your freshman year is when you have to really focus in on your grades because your GPA starts then. And what, Josh and Steve and I have noticed is the kids that have the hardest time GPA-wise and scholarship-wise are the ones that start out poorly GPA-wise as freshmen because you're digging yourself a hole that you're battling back from. It's a lot easier when you're getting those high grades as a freshman to try to keep that and maintain that rather than going the opposite direction. So you can't forget that your GPA, which leads to academic scholarship eventually and opportunities, it starts as a freshman. And so that's important to always say to the younger players.
Yeah, that's very important. Very important. So now we'll quickly head over. So if I'm not going to say those that play high school that play club in the spring have recruitment a little easier, but I think you do. Because college coaches are generally not as busy in the spring. They're not in the moment. So if you play high school, if you're playing high school in the spring though, what does that look like? Does it differ from November?
I would say, trying to maximize the one day like ID clinics that colleges will put on. Most colleges will do one in the spring. So even though you might be in season for your high school team, find some that maybe are on a Sunday or a day off for you. We can talk with your high school coach and get permission to maybe miss a practice, but maximizing your exposure, even though you're playing high school and you're not going to showcases as much, you can still go to colleges and you can still be seen with those.
Yeah, that's tough. In this area, you're not allowed to train with any colleges or do anything that have college coach instruction. In Missouri and Illinois, it gets really dicey. And so state to state, there's different rules too. So, what a lot of colleges will try to do is maybe have an ID clinic right before the high school season starts. That's been one of, for our school, we have like a late January one. Sometimes we get more kids in our summer ID camp at that just because it's that last chance before they know they're going to have like 3 months they can't do anything with any college coaches. So absolutely, you want to take advantage of those and look at the dates and make sure it corresponds. And like Steve said, you're going to have to, some states talk to your coach to get permission. Some states you may have to talk to your athletic director. Some states you might not be able to do anything. And so understanding the rules of your state, we can't give you a blanket answer because of the different rules. But I do think those opportunities are as important as that. Doesn't mean you can't go on college visits. Doesn't mean you can't find yourself talking to, I had a situation the other day, like, well, I just don't know if I can make it up there on a weekend. We don't want to see you on a weekend. You want to be there when, everybody in admissions is there and the faculty is there and you can talk to somebody. Most high schools in America will give you an excused absence day for some schools I've heard up to 5 college visits. You're excused for them. So I think normal is like 3 probably, but you should be using everyone in Rush should be using those. Right? You can go during the day, during the week, and visit a college, and it doesn't count against you in an absence. Like, we should all be taking advantage of those that the high schools give. And you should ask your high school, how many do we get? And you should know the answer.
That's a valid point. And I think also, I mean, again, it goes back to, can you watch more live games? So we're back. I know I'm skipping back to if you play high school in the fall, but it is so valuable to watch live games. It is so valuable. One of the things that the three of us probably deal with most is not understand the level of play you should be at. And I always say, well, have you seen this team play? No. You need to go watch. You need to watch that level. You need to watch the coach on the sideline. Normally, I'm not going to say always. A lot of times, the coach will be able to say hello to you before, and maybe say hello to you afterwards, whatever that looks like. But if you're going to go, please make sure the coach knows, because that shows you're interested, and he can decide if they're able to talk to you or not. But watch live games. It is a different world if you're watching live games. So in the fall of everything that keeping your grades up, keep communicating with college coaches. It is so important to don't take that time off. Also, don't get upset if they don't respond, because they are in the middle of the season. Some coaches have 40 kids. They have one full-time coach and a part-time coach, and they're doing their dangest to keep up. So don't get discouraged. Know that they're running like crazy, but go watch a game. Like, if there's a school you're interested and you haven't watched them play, you need to watch them play, because you either may go, ooh, boy, those guys are big, fast, and strong, or ooh, those girls are not my level, or ooh, I don't like this campus, or I do like this campus. So utilize that time in the fall, especially if Tyler said you get time to take off. Go. It should be one of the first things that you do, is to get on campus in the fall season.
I would say style of play and team culture you can see too, which is very different team to team. So like, you can look up on a website, oh, this team tied this team, right? They must be at the same level. But that doesn't mean they're at the same level, right? Soccer is a funny game. And 2, it doesn't mean they're the same style of play, right? So like, are you going to fit in at one school and not at another? And it also doesn't mean that they have the same culture on a game day, culture on an everyday. And that's the type of stuff that I think you really need to see live to get a feel for. There's a school that we get a lot of kids from where I sit that will look at both our school and this other school, for instance. But in terms of like how we play and the culture that we have, the 2 schools couldn't be further apart. They look similar on paper, and they end up being similar price, et cetera. We've got some similar majors, but like, we could not be further apart in terms of just style of play, tactics, culture, et cetera, right? Experience for the players. And so when kids will say, oh, I'm interested in this school also, I said, well, then you haven't done your homework enough, right? Because like, you actually wouldn't like both of our schools, right? Because we are day and night different in how we operate, right? You would probably like one or the other once you really learn about it. And so that's the type of stuff that I think you have to get on campus and learn about.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And those are intricate parts of, like Josh said, kind of being around the team and maybe talking to some people and getting those answers and taking the next level depth on your college decision making, rather than just the facade depth of what it looks like externally.
All right, we wanted to keep this one short and sweet, just since we started September. So we talked about what to do during high school season. Please, guys, if you're listening, reach out to us. You can just email us, cap@rushsoccer.com. Don't shy away from us during high school season. Don't hide from us. All of us want to continue to help you what you can do and through this process. And let's come out. Let's spend, if you're in high school season now, let's spend these next 2.5, 3 months getting better and getting ahead of everyone else in their recruitment game. So as they sit back and wait and just kind of wait for club to start back up, let's get ahead of it. And we're to help you. So appreciate it as always. This has been Cap Chat Live, talking about the high school season. For Tyler Tomlinson, for Steve Axtell, my name's Josh Tyler, and hey, go Rush.